Okay, thanks for everyone for coming and joining our Be in the Know training. Today we have the Utah Labor Commission. So Eric Olsen's joining us to go over a new grant a grant that came out to help support with quarantine employees during COVID-19. So Eric, we'll turn the time over to you.
Okay, thanks, Natalie. It's good to be with everybody and to be able to have a chance to share more about this program. This is a program that was developed with CARES money. So the CARES Act put money aside for states. And folks were starting to look at some of the problems with businesses and small businesses. Of course, the Utah Labor Commission, we're all about safety and employment safety. We're all about anti-discrimination and all of those things that we handle here. But one concern was so many people, especially in small businesses, people didn't have vacation time, or maybe they didn't have sick time, and small business couldn't afford to pay people while they were out. And so somebody quarantines, now they've got to be out for 2 weeks. How can I make ends meet if I got to be out 2 weeks? I'm just not going to say anything and I'm going to go to work. And then we have spread in the workplace because of that. Well, this grant came about trying to give people more choice and trying to give people an opportunity to be able to stay home, to still get paid, and for the business to be able to do that, and still in times where maybe their income and money coming in have been cut by the pandemic already, not to take even more of a hit. So you can not only do the right thing, you're not going to be behind for doing the right thing. So that's where the Small Business Quarantined Employee, SBQE, grant was born. And we wanted to make it simple. We wanted to make it something that was available to small businesses. We heard loud and clear when some of the federal money came out, the way they identified small businesses maybe wasn't what some of us would think was small. 500 or less was the definition of small business. Well, I ran a small business for a few years, and to me that sounded like an awfully big business. I had 4 or 5 employees at the time that I ran mine. So the number that was used for this one is less than 50. Now, less than 50 to me sounds like 49 or less, but less than 50 is the actual verbiage on it. So there's eligibility requirement number 1. The other eligibility requirements are you have to have had an employee that is forced to quarantine because they've either had a positive test themselves or they've been in close contact with someone who's had a positive test. So mom and dad at home, they've been real careful. Kid goes to school, kid comes back, gets it from somebody at school. We've seen that a lot, right? A child comes home from school and now mom and dad don't have it, but the child does. They all have to quarantine and stay home from work. So you have to either have it or be around somebody that does have it. And a lot of times a person will get contact tracing. They'll get contacted and, hey, you've been around this person and you should quarantine, etc. And then the third eligibility requirement is you have to pay them while they're out on their quarantine. If you're the business owner, if you're the employer, you continue to pay them their regular wage while they're out on quarantine. And then when they're back, you apply for this grant. So it's a reimbursement type of grant. We don't give you the money in advance. The money comes after, and it's what's actually spent. You give us the information that I just talked about there. You give us payroll information. We want payroll to establish that they're an actual employee. We want the 2 prior payrolls to the quarantine period. Then we want the quarantine period payroll. We check the state records, make sure that there's less than 50 employees. Some state records, that the employer has to, or the business has to report these things to the state, so the state has proper identification of employees. So we have run into some cases where our records show more than 50. Well, if that's the case, we don't just throw it in the garbage. We'll kick it back to the employer and we'll say, hey, our records are showing you have more than 50. Please send us some payroll records, something official that shows that you have less than 50. And then they can send it back. And then if everything else is aligned, then we will reimburse them that money that they paid out for that employee while that employee was gone. And so far, we're almost to $1.7 million. This is $2 million was set aside for this grant. So there's still just over $300,000 left in it. We've extended it to the end of January or until the money runs out. Now, I don't know if they're going to find any more money to continue funding it, so I can't say if that's going to happen or not. That is a question that we have gotten, but there's a possibility, but I'm not that sure. So I would operate under the assumption that, hey, if I have some, let's get that in. So in short, if you're a business that paid somebody while they were out in quarantine because you just felt like, I need to do right by my employee, and this is going to be hard, and you made that decision to do that, and you did it from October 1st up until January 31st, then you're eligible for this grant. I can show real quick. I'll share a screen here and show you real quick where you can find this information, and then maybe we can open it up for some questions. So if you go to the Utah Labor Commission website, give me a nod. Can you see that? You can see the website here.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Here's the Utah Labor Commission website. There's this little banner right here. It's a rotating carousel. When you first pull it up, the very first banner is this one. All right, Small Business Quarantine Employee Grant, and you click on Learn More. You can also go to the coronavirus.utah.gov webpage and find this and all the other grants that are available on that page as well in the resources for businesses. So this brings you to our quarantine employee grant page. All the information we just talked about is right here. Okay, the deadline is January 31st, 2021. We will take applications until February 15th if the money holds, or if they continue adding to it. We'll take applications to February 15th because we know it takes time to process maybe those end of month payrolls, right? But we'll pay for expenses up to this time and take applications up to this time, up to February 15th. One of the main reasons we deny applications is right here. They send in stuff from last summer or before October 1st, and the grant period started October 1st, 2020. So if it's before October 1st, you're not eligible. But after October 1st, go for it. There is a dedicated email with any questions. I just got done emptying the inbox in there, sbqeg@utah.gov. If you have more questions about it, you send it to those. That's a dedicated email. That's the only email that comes into that inbox has to do with the grant. There's the purposes, there's those eligibility requirements once again. Okay, and then documentation of quarantine and isolation. I get a lot of questions about what do I need for documentation. So my family went through all of this earlier this year in August. I've got 4 kids, right? My youngest is in junior high. The other 3 are all college students, and they're all going to college and still living in my house because they didn't want to go live on campus with everything that was going on. Yet, like many college students, didn't really change what they did. They all three of them got COVID. And so, everything was fine and everybody was fine. But what happened was the rest of us in the household, we got on our cell phones or on email or by phone, we heard from contact tracers, about each and every one of those positive tests in our house. And they were able to provide, they asked if we needed something for work, and yes, we took it. And so local health departments can do that. It's been tougher with this surge going on right now. The contact tracers are spread pretty thin, but they will provide documentation if you call them and ask them. The local health departments, we haven't had a problem with them not providing something. A positive test result will also work as well. If you have somebody that's positive in the workplace and you have 3 other employees that were around them, and you can include the positive test from this employee and then maybe something on company letterhead or something official that says these other employees were in contact with this person, and so we had them go out in quarantine until either they had a negative test or until the quarantine time was up. So we'll take that. And again, we'll try to work with businesses as much as possible to try to get them eligible, because we want to help out the businesses as much as possible. So we're trying to be really open and fair and reasonable if you can get us something. But I can't take something written in crayon on a piece of paper. I mean, I've had handwritten things come through before. We just can't, okay, because we still are subject to audit. In fact, we just went through a state audit as this started. Everything's good, but they can do it again later. And when you sign that on that dotted line, or when you put that information in, you're attesting to this is all accurate information as well. So it does make it a little bit more difficult. And sometimes the local health departments will provide one certificate for a company saying that somebody there has a positive test, and so that everybody there needs to quarantine. So then all you need is one document, and you send that in. One other question while we're on this, related, one thing that you can't see anywhere on the app, where do I put other employees? Do I put them all in here? Each affected employee needs their own separate application. So if you have 5 employees, you have to do 5 separate applications. And those are a couple of the questions that we get and we see the most. Then you click on Get Started. Once you click on Get Started, it's going to send you to the GoEd. It's going to say request access to the GoEd portal. You're going to put your information in here. You're going to push submit or send, and it's going to send you within a day or two, sometimes quicker. It's going to send you access to the portal, and the portal gives you access to the application, and then the application is pretty self-explanatory from there. So, and then real quickly, if you're doing the portal access with the surge and toward the end of the year, we've really seen a lot of people applying for this grant. So, there's human beings that are approving this and pushing these things through. If it's been a year or two and you still haven't gotten that email from your portal request, you can send an email to goedsupport@utah.gov. That's GOED support@utah.gov, and let them know your business name and when you put in that. That's basically our tech support folks is GoEd support, and then they'll get you taken care of. They're very responsive that way. And I only bring that up because, again, with the surge in applications, we've seen a few people sometimes say, hey, we haven't seen this, when does it come through? And sometimes we find out they didn't push submit, say it's still sitting in their thing. And sometimes it's no, they're just a little behind, or something got fouled up somewhere. We get it taken care of as quickly as possible. So with that, I'm going to unshare my screen.
Eric, just one note, just one comment on that
Yes.
GoEd portal.
Okay.
That's the same portal that was used by for the other GoEd applications too. So if a business already applied for any of the other GoEd applications or any of the other GoEd grants, they should already have a login, correct?
Correct. Yep, you should already have access to the portal and all of the applications. You should have access to be able to get those applications in there. If they try to get in and they can't, or they can't find it, then they'd want to email GoEd support, and they'll help them find that. I get a lot of calls about it, but again, I'm the administrator for the grant, but I'm not the tech guy for the grant. They give that to the really smart people, so they take care of that part of it. What questions can I answer for you regarding the grant? Again, we tried to make it as straightforward and as easy as possible, but and I can think of things I've seen over the last 3 months, and I've tried to mention some of the main things. One other thing I'll tell you, this is geared for employees, not the grant is for businesses. This is for the business owner. We're not giving the money to employees. The business owner is paying the employees while they're out. We're reimbursing the business, okay? But when I say it's geared for employees, it's not really geared for that single business owner, that sole that sole, what's the word I'm looking for?
Sole proprietor.
That sole proprietor. Thank you. it's not really geared toward that. It's not employees so much. We've had to turn some people away because of that. And many times people will come in with things like that, or they pay themselves by taking a draw, or their payroll information is, a personal check with the stuff on. We can't take that. It has to be official payroll. It can't be a draw. It can't be any of that sort of thing. That's just the way the rules of the grant were written. And so if you're think about it more from the employee's perspective. This is to pay my employees. Now, if you're on your payroll, if you're the business owner, you've got multiple employees and you're listed as employee and you've got payroll regular like them, then we've paid those. But it's the sole proprietor. It's not necessarily as much much for them without any payroll type thing. And that's it's unfortunate. Those people have had some hardships as well, but and it's not, we can't pay for, well, I was sick and I do this consulting and so I missed these 2 or 3 things, so that's how much money I missed out of. No, this is an actual reimbursement. It's actually what money was paid out. It's not what I missed out on this or I missed out on that. So that's one other thing we've seen and we've had to address. What other questions can I answer for you?
I think you answered a lot of questions that I've received from businesses. The number one question I think we've seen, and I'll open this up to Megan and Pratt too from their business interactions as well, but our number one question is, can you back pay, which correct up until October 1st. Like there's the option, as long as it was paid, that they actually did make the payment to the employee.
Well, the payments were supposed to be made. So this question has come through and I took it back to the folks that put the grant together, and the payments are supposed to be made at the time they were out. So if somebody said, oh, I just found, and we are seeing this, so I just found out about this, and somebody was out the first week of October, if I pay them later, can I, if I pay them next week and give you the kind of back pay type thing, can we send that in? And that's not something that we're approving with the grant.
No,
so,
thanks.
I'm
For
sorry.
that clarification. No, that was perfect. And then another question, which I think I have the answer to, but I'll let you answer it. Any implications for businesses that have applied for the SBA's Paycheck Protection Program and how this interfaces with that type of funding?
So if you look at our information on there, or you look at the grant and the application, it's check with the IRS. That's because we're not the tax professionals on this side. We put the grant together, and there could be tax implications. So we would want the business to check with the IRS. There's different grants and things going on the state level. So, they should be able to call in on a hotline and get somebody from the IRS that will be able to tell them about what those implications may be. We don't know exactly what they are there, but there could be. So we want businesses to know that before they go and take it. If they've taken some money and get a tax credit for, some of these programs are a tax credit at the end of the year. So they take the tax credit and then the IRS finds out they got money for it anyway. That's where there could be tax implications, but we don't. That's not our purview. So we're not the experts on that. We advise people to check first.
Perfect, thanks. And then one final question that I've received: is there a list of all of the application questions somewhere that businesses can see ahead of time before they enter into the portal?
No, we don't have those. We don't have those posted anywhere. It's there's not a ton of questions on it, but it's all pretty straightforward, that you would normally see in something like this. Business name, DBAs, addresses, phone numbers, the FEIN, their entity number, their Utah business entity number, and then the amount that they're asking for, and then the times that the person was out, so the dates that the person was out from when to when, and then which payroll period that was, from when to when. And then they need to attach two prior pay stubs for that employee. So pay stubs prior to their quarantine period, and then the pay stub for the quarantine period, as well as the documents that show that they either had COVID and were supposed to quarantine, or somebody near them, they were in close contact, somebody that had COVID and was supposed to quarantine. Need to make sure that those documents have the employee's name on them somewhere. We've had people send in the screenshot, they'll get a test and they'll get the info back on their phone that you're positive, send in a screenshot and they cut off the name. So then we'll just send it back and say, hey, send that screenshot again, but we need to see the name. So it has to be something to link that employee. And one other question I will get, and this leads me into other things that you may need. I just did some for a radio station, and we do lots for restaurants that have sales staff or wait staff. They called and asked, well, these people work on commission, or these people work, with a minimal base and then tips. How do we do that? Well, you decide how you're going to pay them while they're out. Maybe you take the last 6 months, maybe you take the last 3 months and make an average. The key for this grant is, though, you just need to pay them while they're out. How you decide to pay them is up to you. You need to pay them while they're out. We need to be able to look at it and see, oh, here's what they did. So if that's the case, you can also attach a Word document with explanation and the requisite math if need be. Just remember as you're putting these things in, that somebody on the other end is sitting behind their computer looking at it and has to be able to make sense of it before they can apply it. So it's kind of one of those, the KISS principle, the keep it simple stupid, because you don't know who's sitting behind the other end. Keep it simple even if that person's kind of stupid. And more information is better than not enough. And from our end, we will do our best to, if we aren't sure about something, we'll send it back and ask for, if we have time, depending on our workload with it, we'll make a phone call. But if it's real heavy with the workload, they may just get an email back that says, here's what we need. Here's what's going on. They'll get a rejection letter. The rejection email doesn't deny it. It just opens the application back up for editing, because once they submit, they can't edit it. So if we send them back a rejection, it opens it up for editing. We send an email that says why we rejected it. Here's what else you need. And again, we try to really work with them. We want to help as many businesses as we can with this grant.
Thanks, Eric. Pratt, Megan, did you have questions that you wanted to follow up with?
I didn't. I was going to ask about the restaurant staff and the back date pay, because I'm guessing that's what some of the people did, is they didn't get paid and they're going to want to get this money coming in. But at the same time, it's something that you've thought through. You guys have thought through just about everything when it came to this. So sounds pretty well thought out and self-explanatory for those that want to utilize it.
My biggest questions were the tax implications of this. So we'll refer those back to the IRS, just like was said. I think a lot of people, or a lot of businesses, are getting some shockers as they're going through and applying for the forgivenesses and realizing that they're going to have to put that as income and stuff like that, not realizing that that was part of the deal, because we didn't know that was going to happen and stuff like that. And so we want to make sure that we're trying to go in with our eyes wide open on all of this. So
yeah, and we've had that question a lot about, oh, are we going to have to repay this? Or this be kind of what you're saying. People are realizing some of the strings that may have been attached to some things. Maybe that's not the correct characterization, but I've had that question before about, are we going to have to pay this back? Are you going to come back looking for it back? And the answer on this is no. It's a grant, and if you're eligible, then it is money that's going in your pocket to replace money that already came out of your pocket, to help employees be able to continue to put food on their table, to help you keep employees and them not having to quit or go somewhere else because, well, you can't pay me for this or that. I'm going to go look for something else. And and I'm sure you guys know, we're all trying to do our best to do do our best by everyone else and avoid unintended consequences. And so it's tough running a small business. I've been in that chair myself. So I appreciate, and there's a reason I'm not in it anymore. I don't have the guts for it. It takes a lot of guts to be a small business owner. And I applaud them and have a lot of respect for them.
Well, thanks, Eric. So just to recap, if there are any further questions on this small business quarantine grant, employee grant, businesses can reach out to sbqeg@utah.gov. I also will do a plug too for our Small Business Development Center. We have a staff member, Talia, that's on board, that's specifically there to help businesses with all of these options for COVID-19 and just trying to figure out the resources that are out there. So locally in San Juan County, if you need any support, please reach out to our Small Business Development Center as well, and they'll be able to help you too. But with that, thanks everyone for joining us. We appreciate the time, Eric, that you've taken to share this information with us.
Yeah, happy to do it. I'll be looking for some applications from that end of the state. How's that?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.